Right, what about this then? Come on, Mouse Nick. What was your bad one? What did you pick as your bad point?
Yeah, my bad is just kind of. I started by just coming up with this because from the eye test, ZywOo has just been playing like so. He's been such a low impact player lately. And then I looked at the stats a little bit more.
Stats are always still good though, aren't they? I know.
Is that well? They're not. No, I mean they're worse. They've gotten worse this year.
No, but I mean this. Like, he probably still has like a 1.25 rating or something. Listen, Valdez in the chat, mate. He'd like that rating tomorrow if that's a fucking bad one. You know what? Give me a break.
Okay, well, by his standards, so yeah, he has such.
I know what I mean. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, but I looked at it. It was like 2019. He never had below a 1.14.
Okay.
In 2020, he never had below a 1.17 for like big events, basically. And this year, he's already had 4 tournaments beneath a 1.14. Cologne was a 1.12, and he's even had an event that was like beneath a 1.0 rating on HLTV. Yes. And you look at it and you're like, okay, that's because they lost in 1BO3. But who they lost to was 9Z at like a Blast Spring showdown, and it's like the quality of the teams that he's playing badly against is like not that high. Like he has become less consistent. And I watched his demos, and it just feels like he's losing some focus, or he doesn't trust himself as much anymore. He's not as decisive in a lot of moments. Like I find him like quick switching more. I find him like pulling a nade out and then he gets timing. Like it feels like, and when he's clearing angles out, sometimes he just like half-asses the clear, doesn't actually clear the corner entirely, and then just turns away from it. It's like, I never used to see him do these kinds of things.
I was just about to say, like, that's one of the things when you talk to other pros, and we've talked about it on the team as well. When you play and watch ZywOo, like before, it seemed like the guy could never fucking get surprised. Like it happens all the time to all CS players. Like you always get timed, and whether it's like your own awareness that's like lacking in the moment, or if it's like your teammates gave wrong information, or like whatever it might be, the other team just doing like a good strat, can be a multitude of things. But like ZywOo would just always be in the right moment at the right time, and you could just see him be super aware of all these different timings that's going on, and he would just essentially, as you said, like he would never be caught out with his knife out, or him being surprised where the opponent could be. Like he's always fucking ready, you know?
I think everybody saw that highlight from their phase BO3 where he won that 1v4 going into B on Dust 2 at Cologne. Like he just like segmented every fight in that sequence perfectly. It was such a pleasure to watch. The very next round, you know what happened? If any of you guys remember, he just goes down suicide and he gets USP charged and he gets 0 kills on Dust 2. Like
that's so unlike him.
Yeah. Exactly. You think he'd kill 3 of them, if not all of them, but he died to USPs without getting one.
And that's the good thing. Like these kind of players, like it might even be a specific call, like that forced him to do that. But the truly great players like Simple and ZywOo, they just have that fucking spider sense tingling. So even though the in-game leader is calling a strat or saying something, they know within themselves, okay, this thing could happen to be the next round, so I'm just gonna like use 2 seconds extra to be ready for it, and then I'm gonna do the strat they told me.
Yeah.
But then if you kind of like stop doing that, I don't know, I think it's not something you can learn or like directly improve on. It's just something like within you, like a timing thing, and it's super hard to explain to people if you don't know what I'm talking about. But it's just this like micro thing that's not up to the in-game leader or the coach or something.
I would put it like this: when Apex went on Thorin's Stratbook episode, he talked about how ZywOo is a soldier and he would just do what he's told all the time. And I almost feel like that's the worst thing that ever could have happened to him. Like if he thought that was positive reinforcement, that he listens exactly to what the IGL does, I don't want that anymore. I want him to get his own. I want him to like play the situation out, just like you're saying, like in the micro, a little bit more like he wants to. Like play to his comfort a little bit more. Like don't feel like you have to get this specific map control at this exact timing, because like that's how he had his worst game on Overpass. He just kind of like followed strats and then just died over and over again. And that's what I'm seeing more and more from ZywOo now. I feel like he thinks that just listening to the IGL, listening to the coach is the best thing. But what he was doing for 2 years and before he was on Vitality was doing his own thing a little bit more, and I think that served him so much better and his team better.
But I'm not even sure it's the coach or Apex fault, because it might be some subconscious thing that he's not even noticing himself. So I think it's super hard to pinpoint like who's to blame, or whether it's something he's even thought about himself.
I'm not saying it's
like
just
it might be fully random, and then 2 months from now he'll be like back to his old form. But I think it probably stems from the roster changes they had. Like I'm not to say whatever went on inside the Vitality team, but I still disagree with some of the roster moves they made. I think right now they just have 2 sort of inexperienced players, and kicking RPK was still a weird decision in my opinion, because he was on the team where they had a lot of success.
Yeah.
So why would he all of a sudden be the problem when they don't have a lot of success anymore? If you know what I mean. Like in my eyes, that would more be up to the star players failing, or maybe the system is failing. I don't think it was RPK's fault. But again, I'm not to say whatever went on within the team, and I think it's always super hard from the outside to read exactly what's going on within a team. But it might be some stability thing with the team that they changed play style or change the habits or whatever that might have caused him to have a dip in form.
Yeah, of course. But here's the thing, Valdir. This is exactly the appropriate medium in which to speculate about those things. So I will go ahead and do exactly that. So I'll say I agree, by the way. First of all, it could literally all just be ZywOo, for all we know. But I'll say this initially. If I look at what's around him, there's inputs to his system, as it were, that have changed. Like, for example, one that I think has been massively overlooked is because Vitality did so well online last year, people decided, obviously Alex had nothing to do with them being good in 2019. Mate, if you watched what Alex did with basically scraps in Cloud9, he is clearly a good in-game leader. Like, he just clearly knows the game, how to use people. He's even another person that was like AWPing and actually having an impact, even though he clearly is not a good AWPer and cannot be a tier 1 AWPer. Like, this is a guy where I've just seen and I've talked to him. Like, he knows the game. He just has his own approach. So that interview we all sort of laugh at from back in 2019 in their heyday, where he sort of implied, like, I don't know why people go crazy about the ZywOo frags. You know, we're flashing for him and all that. Now, the reason why I laughed at that is because it's like, listen, mate, you can flash all you want. You're not going to fucking kill people like that if you're just a normal human being. Like, you know, like, sort of credit how good he is. But I'll take the other side of it and say, I look at it now, I sort of think he had a point in the sense that, like, the point Valdir makes about you can't surprise him. Think about the teams he had around him when he was successful. They were super vets. The only inexperienced player was either Masuta, that was it. Or Alex himself, who obviously was, and ZywOo, you know, these were the only experience. So I always used to say this, right? When you have players like that, what they can give you that won't show up on a stat sheet is they can give you perfect comms. If you play with RPK, Apex, NBK, by the way, they've also all played together in their careers, they're going to have unbelievable fucking chemistry and synergy. They're going to have a shorthand for the game and even spot call-outs that just everyone knows. You played together for years and years. If I'm a young AWPer, that's my dream. I always say this, actually. One of the things I think is very underrated about people like Simple, even Device when he was on Astralis, is the way that they themselves chose where to position themselves as an AWPer is not how normal AWPers actually operate. Like a normal AWPer, for example, when he says, I'm going to post up on this spot here, there also comes with it the angle of like, and you're going to watch my flank here so I can't get possibly like a guy sneak up on me, and you're going to tell me if anyone's coming your end. Like, they need to feel comfortable before they can look at that crosshair. If they're thinking in the back of their head the whole time, fuck, do I have to like reposition? There's a guy behind me. That even though it's the same shot, it isn't, if you know what I mean. Like, that will mess with your head. And so, in my opinion, as you're saying, you put in these super young players who are mega inexperienced, you're not going to have that. In fact, it's easy to see how you might second guess yourself. And then I'll add in as well, on the whole angle of like, as you said, that it could just be ZywOo, this is also where people take for granted. It's why I kept telling everyone last year, stop this thing where you're pretending that you know ZywOo will do what Simple's done and just be amazing for 5 straight years. No, you can't do that because we didn't even know Simple could do that. That's why it's so insane that he's doing it. He's like breaking the boundaries of what's possible in terms of like elite performance. You can't give someone that status till they've done it, because we're talking about like the difference between playing 2 years and playing 5 at that level. That's enormous. So one of the problems is this. I've always thought the most underrated accomplishment in Counter-Strike individually was when Nico and Simple carried really bad teams and were fucking insane at the same time. Because you know fans say that stupid like Corp line of like, it's easy to carry on a bad... Is it?
Yes,
Fuck,
exactly.
It's even harder.
Yes,
it's even harder, motherfucker. It's twice as hard.
I remember I've had this fucking discussion a million times where I'm trying to explain to people, like, if you're a good player on a shit team, that it's harder to actually accomplish something and look good. People are always telling me like the opposite, right? And it just seems like they should fucking try it themselves and see how they will fare.
No, for sure, exactly.
That's the point you have to recite to in the end, because you cannot explain with fucking words how it is. Like, because keep in mind, like, if you're on a bad team, yeah, sure, like you might get yeah, but still, like, you'll have to eco way more, like, you'll die to interfax all the time, then you have to fucking walk into some angle because you're outnumbered, where
you're rotating
like,
into 1v3s,
there's no matter how good your aim is, you're just gonna find a CT on an off angle that's gonna kill you, like, you're gonna get fucking flashed all the time, you're never gonna have the economy on your side, like, you just essentially you have less rounds against better teams to perform, right?
Yes.
And then people are trying to tell me that this is like easier compared to being on a good team where like you can look at, for example, like I think a good example, to be honest, is like not the former, but like the great Astralis team. I think you could plug pretty much any player into that team, and they'll probably like have decent stats because Astralis is winning all the games. You know, back in like 2018, 19.
That's a call out right there.
I think you could pick like any decent Danish player and slot them into Astralis, and this is just like personal opinion. That says something about how great the team is as well.
Sure.
And I think they'll do pretty good because like just simple math, like you're gonna get a lot of easy frags because your team is winning more rounds.
Yes. If everyone remembers, by the way, this is an angle I actually had years ago in his first years, like a top pro, when it was actually at when he was at Cologne in 2019 when they came second. If everyone remembers, that's where that famous stat from HLTV was done, where you can look at like the team breakdown of the rating. And famously, he had like an insane like plus, like I don't know, like 100 plus 120 or whatever, and you know, like a 1.27 rating or something. And then every other member of that team was like minus, like a red rating, a -1, or like a 1.0. And at the time, right, what people tried to do, and I told them, do not do this, is they tried to be like, wow, it's like fucking ZywOo'ality. It's like Nico Sports against like no motherfucker. The difference between the Nico Sports and the bad simple lineups is those players weren't fragging and they were bad players. Yeah. The difference in the ZywOo one is they weren't fragging, but they were very experienced players, and they were definitely adding something to the game that didn't show up on the rating.
Also, I remember like if you go and watch a demo of some of the old like Nico mouse sports games from back in the days, it's not like the guy got like, let's say the old mouse team with Nico was playing Mirage, and everyone would be in minus stats, and Nico would be, let's say, +10 or whatever, right? But they still lost the game. It's not like he was sitting behind top mid boxes, getting 2 exit frags every round, getting the plus caddy. Like he was literally like entering from cat or slope, killing 3 or 4 people with impossible one taps, winning the round in some crazy way or doing some crazy clutch. It's not like he had this like. I don't think he had like a bait-ish kind of style, which made him get a lot of easy kills. Like he was usually doing a fuck ton of entry fragging, getting a lot of the hard trade kills. You know, the opening kills in a 3-on-3 that would like open up the round. I think that's super hard to do, and you just gotta have so much confidence. And you can see with a guy like maybe like Yekinda on VP, as soon as that kind of stops working, you're gonna look like not like a shit player, but your dip in form is gonna be crazy, you know.
Oh, of course,
and then all of a sudden you're gonna be going from everybody's like praising you, getting called top 5 player in the world, to being like, what fucking happened to this guy, and you're gonna get shit on all the time, you know. So I think you also gotta be super aware as a player of what your limits are and what you need to work on if you have this kind of play style, because it's super high variance, I would say.
One last point to wrap this one up, and probably an indicator that I'm hanging out with Semphis too much, is that this is ZywOo's first year that he's getting skinny. And that also...
He's using that one, because obviously that's Semphis' excuse. Like, I ruined my own life by getting shit. Like, give me a break.
No, you got way skinnier though.
Okay, it's true. It is true.
I discussed this on the last HLTV Confirmed, where I got asked as well, like, about the whole fitness aspect, and we had these jokes for years on Danish teams that like whenever someone would lose weight, it would always correlate with the performance getting worse.
Yes.
But it doesn't apply if you weren't like overweight in the first place. Then it doesn't apply.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're getting fit, it's different than just like going.
Yeah, you know, getting muscular is different. Yeah, but it's with like that's one of the answers. I even used to joke with Pimp, obviously, just to be mean with him. Like, mate, you were way better when you were a fat little fucking possible cheater that everyone hated. Like, why do you ruin your whole game? Because obviously, listen, props to him for doing this shit. No, here's the other thing I'll say. The last point I'll add on is the reason I bring up the Nico simple one is because the other part that I thought was so underrated about what they did is, listen, you might think I hate Nico the person, or the Nico the player is unbelievable, and one thing I have mad admiration for is the mental fortitude it takes to be in the scenarios Valde just explained. And by the way, you yourself know a few months in that's what's happening. You know you're not going to win these games. You know that this teammate probably is going to let you down. You know that you can play the best in the whole tournament and you won't even get to the semi-finals. In that scenario, if you can still do it like Nico and Simple did for years, mate, listen, I could talk about other aspects of your game, but like that is there's very few players will ever have that kind of mental strength. So it's not that ZywOo isn't weak, he just isn't like an alien in that sense, you know. It's very rare you're going to be like that.
Just think about if you're a casual viewer, just think about if you're playing a fucking matchmaking game or face it game and your team is shit. Let's say you solo queued and your team is shit and like nothing's working, you're losing 16-5. It's fucking hard to actually perform because you're fucking on eco all the time. Like 2 people are dying straight away in the round. Like it's so fucking hard.
That's not giving you a better rating that you have.
No, exactly. Like it's not gonna fucking help, and you're gonna have a fuck ton of rounds where you're just gonna die from like, I don't know, like random shit.
Dude, I can't believe I actually never thought of that myself, because that is the most based response to that shit thing that you were saying earlier that everyone says.
It's going to be fucking hard.
What you just say to the fans is, so you must just love it then in matchmaking when it's really unfair and you get the bad team, right? You probably just carry, do you? No, because everyone hates that. That's everyone's excuse, that fucking teammates. Like, even when it's even teams, they say that, don't they? Like, give me a break. No, you're right there. That is such a mad...
You can't have it both ways, right?
Agreed. Yes, exactly.
And about the other point with being like, losing weight, is like the reason why you know it's true is, can you mention me a single player who like lost a lot of weight and then went on to be better? Like, I swear we had this discussion before, and we had so many, and I told them as well. I think it was maybe even MSL or some shit, Asia or someone. And then if you can mention me one single player who actually lost weight and got better, I'll fucking, I don't know, pay you next dinner.
Here's the thing. I'll finish this off in classic Thorin fashion while I attempt to relate it to my absolutely layman amateur attempt at science. Right? Are you ready? Because I actually have a theory as to why. There's 2 reasons. One of them actually I think Semphis himself might even have had this angle. Maybe it's someone else, someone similar was edgy. There's 2 angles. One is this, which is one, literally just physically. Like, listen, when people get fat, one of the actual bad things about it is because you just expand out. Often, famously, some fat people look similar because you sort of lose your features and what makes you unique, right? Well, as a result, this will sound mad, but think about when you're playing. One of the main things for a player is your setup and it being consistent and stuff. As mad as it sounds, if you have like a big fat arm, it's probably just going to be the exact same position on the mouse mat, like the angle on the wrist, or like it's going to be different if you go down a skinny little wrist or whatever. You might have to change your mousing style. Also, you're literally going to have less inches touching the table. And then the other angle, which this might have been a Semphis point, and if it isn't, whoever's told, you'll see why I think it is in my brain mouse thing, because it's such a sick approach. I think it was Semphis. His angle was this, right?
You spent less hours on the game, or what?
Yes, it's that when your only thing in life is being sick at Counter-Strike, you're going to put all your fucking hours into that because that's the only thing you're good at. It's not that like a girlfriend ruins you. It's just that in that scenario, you're going to go, it's all right to just be pretty good at the game and have a girlfriend and party, you know. That's also the other factor that we don't put in yet, of course. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.